World War II, humanity's darkest nightmare. 100 powerful historical photos are about to be revealed. Drop a one if you're ready to watch this video all the way through with me. Steelworker Morris Simon quietly read the paper. On May 7, 1945, he learned of Nazi Germany's surrender while his son was still stationed in Germany. Crowds filled Trafalgar Square to celebrate Allied victory as Britain's royal family and Prime Minister Churchill appeared from Buckingham Palace's balcony, all in May 1945. In 1939, Hitler saluted as German troops marched across a wooden bridge over the San River in Poland, marking the beginning of an invasion that shook all of Europe. The Soviet victory flag waved atop the Reichstag. In May 1945, it symbolized the total collapse of Nazi power and the hard-won triumph of the Allied forces. The Battle of Monte Cassino raged through 4 brutal assaults, causing over 125,000 casualties among Allied and Axis forces, all unfolding in early 1944. In December 1944, the Battle of the Ardennes, the Nazis' final Western offensive, erupted, leaving over 186,000 casualties, even as Germany ultimately collapsed under Allied pressure. The Battle of Kursk became history's largest tank clash. In the summer of 1943, the Soviet Red Army defeated the Nazis and began liberating Ukraine. In autumn 1941, Kharkov, a strategic Ukrainian city, fell to German forces. A year later, a failed Soviet counterattack fueled Nazi overconfidence on the Eastern Front. The Battle of Luzon, fought from January to August 1945, cost over 332,000 casualties as U.S. forces reclaimed the Philippines from Japanese occupation. The invasion of France ended the phony war, delivering Germany a swift victory that caused over 469,000 casualties, all unfolding in the summer of 1940. In 1944, the Battle of Narva in Estonia became one of Europe's bloodiest fights, with over 550,000 casualties before Hitler ordered a German withdrawal. In Moscow, fierce fighting cost the Soviets over 650,000 lives. In winter 1941, German losses reached 150,000 within just 20 brutal days of battle. Leave 1 if you have seen this picture before on my channel. Leave 0 if you see it repeated too many times. The Battle of Berlin marked the war's end in Europe. On April 30, 1945, Soviet troops seized the Reichstag as Hitler's suicide sealed Nazi Germany's collapse. The Battle of Stalingrad was history's bloodiest turning point, claiming over 1.7 million lives as Soviet forces crushed the Nazi advance in 1943. During the Great Depression of 1929 to 1933, Japan's hardship fueled militarism, setting the stage for brutal invasions across Asia and the Pacific. After World War II ended, Japan lay in ruins. In 1945, atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki ended the war and began the nuclear age. In August 1933, Adolf Hitler presided over a massive Nazi rally in Nuremberg, projecting power and cementing his image as Germany's unchallenged political leader. German troops stormed the Polish border. On September 1st, 1939, this act ignited World War II as Britain and France immediately declared war. During World War I, Paris's Grand Palais served as a military hospital. In 1916, recovering soldiers even rehearsed combat drills within its grand halls. In July 1937, the Second Sino-Japanese War erupted as Imperial Japanese forces invaded China, igniting the largest and bloodiest conflict in Asia during the 20th century. The invasion of Poland by Nazi Germany on September 1st, 1939, triggered Britain and France to declare war, marking the official beginning of World War II. After seizing Warsaw, German troops marched through ruined streets, symbolizing Europe's descent into the full darkness of war in 1939. In 1939, Adolf Hitler addressed Nazi officials with fiery speeches about a greater Germany, foreshadowing the catastrophe that would engulf humanity. In Asia, on July 14, 1939, Japan captured Chusan Island, strengthening its Pacific foothold before joining the Axis alliance with Germany and Italy. German soldiers posed before the Eiffel Tower, the fallen symbol of France, as Paris surrendered and Nazi troops marched triumphantly into the city in June 1940. On September 7, 1940, smoke rose behind London's Tower Bridge as relentless Nazi bombings began, yet British courage refused to yield under the Blitz. In Hawaii, on December 7, 1941, Japan's surprise attack on Pearl Harbor engulfed U.S. ships in flames, pulling America into the heart of World War II. On December 8, 1941, President Franklin D. Roosevelt declared war on Japan. 3 days later, Germany and Italy retaliated, turning World War II into a worldwide inferno. During Operation Torch in December 1942, British and American troops landed in Algeria, marking the Allied forces' first major counterattack against the Axis powers. In February 1943, at Stalingrad, the Soviet Red Army achieved a decisive victory, ending Nazi Germany's advance and marking the turning point of World War II. On June 6, 1944, Allied troops stormed Normandy in history's largest amphibious invasion, opening the Western Front and liberating France from Nazi occupation. Crowds in Paris hailed General Charles de Gaulle at Place de la Concorde, celebrating national pride reborn after the city's liberation in August 1944. Leave a one so I know you're still here. Do you know what context this photo is in? At the Yalta Conference in February 1945, Churchill, Roosevelt, and Stalin reshaped the post-war world, defining spheres of influence after Germany's impending defeat. In April 1945, as the Buchenwald concentration camp was liberated, the gaunt faces of survivors revealed the unspeakable horrors of the Nazi genocide. Soviet soldiers raised their victory flag over Berlin, ending Europe's nightmare amid smoke, ruins, and sacrifice in April 1945. On August 9, 1945, the second atomic bomb exploded over Nagasaki, turning the city into an inferno and bringing humanity to the brink of annihilation. aboard the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay on September 2, 1945. Japan signed its unconditional surrender, officially ending World War II. Throughout human history, World War II remains the deadliest conflict, where millions perished and many untold truths continue to haunt the conscience of mankind. William Patrick Stewart Houston, Hitler's half-nephew, served in the U.S. Navy. In the mid-1940s, this created a striking paradox, with family ties split across opposing sides of the war. During the liberation of Paris in 1944, drunken laughter among soldiers reflected deep relief from occupation. Brief joy before the war's grim march still stretched across Europe. The massive ENIAC computer launched a new technological era, filling an entire room and proving unprecedented computing power, all unveiled in February 1946. Amid the brutal war of 1942, the image of a Soviet uniformed dog was captured, a rare symbol of humor and optimism amid the darkness of conflict. Jewish prisoners raised the Israeli flag, and in 1945, the image became a symbol of survival and hope after enduring the horrors of genocide. The Nuremberg trials, held in late 1945, captured war criminals laughing, a strange moment suspended between justice and the shadow of unspeakable crimes. A Wehrmacht soldier balanced a cat on his helmet, and that image, taken at Leningrad in 1942, became a fleeting symbol of softness amid the siege's relentless brutality. American soldiers called bombs Easter eggs, and during the 1945 Rhine crossing, each one falling over the Ruhr felt like a mocking message aimed squarely at Hitler's collapsing ambitions. In East London's suburbs, children sat beside rubble after the 1940 Blitz bombings, a stark reminder of the relentless destruction Britain's civilians endured under nightly German air raids. In Warsaw in April 1943, German troops dragged Jews from hiding, an iconic photograph symbolizing Holocaust brutality and the desperate Warsaw Ghetto uprising against Nazi oppression. Smoke over USS Arizona marked not only the ship's end, but America's awakening, the moment a nation's grief turned into the resolve that would reshape the war's destiny. Amid Genep's shattered ruins, snipers of the 51st Division fought not just for the city's streets, but to reclaim Europe's fading hope from the grip of tyranny. U.S. bombers dropped atomic weapons on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, unleashing terrifying mushroom clouds and bringing World War II to a close, all occurring in August 1945. In December 1941, a Japanese aircraft was shot down in flames as U.S. anti-air defenses roared back at Pearl Harbor, proving the battle was no longer one-sided. The B-17F Flying Fortress launched from Lorient to strike at German targets. In May 1943, it demonstrated the Allied Air Force's growing reach and resolve. In 1940, Germany launched the Blitz to destroy Britain's Air Force. When that failed, Hitler shifted to mass bombings against civilians in London and major cities. Children in London's suburbs sat amid the rubble. This heartbreaking scene came in September 1940, when German bombs flattened homes during the relentless Blitz. In February-March 1945, 6 Marines raised the flag atop Mount Suribachi after seizing Iwo Jima, a Pulitzer-winning photograph that became one of the most enduring symbols of World War II. Dutch citizens danced through the streets, celebrating Eindhoven's liberation. In September 1944, their joy stood as a powerful symbol of freedom reinstated. On May 28, 1946, in Landsberg, German doctor Klaus Karl Schilling was hanged, ending the horrific medical crimes that left thousands of prisoners victims of malaria experiments. Amid the mud of the Dutch front in October 1944, Field Marshal Montgomery outlined his Allied plans to King George VI inside a command convoy after Operation Market Garden's setback. In October 1944, British troops wandered the Acropolis in Athens, briefly escaping the chaos of Greece's liberation battles as the city shifted from Nazi occupation to civil unrest. Amid the brutal Eastern Front in 1943, Soviet teenagers like these faced frontline combat, holding rifles almost as tall as themselves during the desperate battles near Kursk. A teenage sailor aboard the cruiser Krasny Kavkaz, Boris Kulishin, served during the fierce Black Sea clashes of 1942, when Soviet naval forces struggled to defend Sevastopol from Axis assaults. Sergeant Vladimir Sokolov fought through the frozen ruins of Stalingrad in early 1943, part of the relentless Red Army counteroffensive that turned the tide of the entire Eastern Front. Barely 14, Peter Kleipa carried messages under fire during the 1944 Leningrad offensive, embodying the desperate courage of Soviet youth as they helped break the city's 872-day siege. The swastika of Nazi Germany, once flown across Europe, slowly vanished after May 1945 as fascism was defeated and history turned a blood-soaked chapter into mere memory. From Europe to the Pacific, World War II left fields of corpses and cities reduced to ash, erasing over 70 million lives between 1939 and 1945 in humanity's darkest years. At just 16, Vasily Kurka led a platoon in the 1944 Soviet push into Belarus, showing that even youth could bear the heavy weight of war. Leave number 1 if you still read this far. Ivan Gerasimov, only 15 in 1943, served as a scout during the Battle of Smolensk, slipping through enemy lines to deliver vital intelligence for Red Army counterattacks.